All right, so my name is Tamice Spencer-Helms. I use they and she pronouns. I am non-binary, but I keep the she because why would it ever be an insult to be considered a Black woman? So this session is called, we got some folks coming in, so come on in. We're trying to fill in the middle just a little bit because I'm gonna do a lot of Q&A and questions and stuff. So today we're talking about Queerness is Holiness. You can find me at Tamice Name Speaks on these interwebs. Now they feel like the streets is watching a little bit. But you can find me. I'm mainly on Instagram and about to be really kind of exclusively found at the Mixtape site. Okay, so welcome. I got a question for y'all. If it will pop up. What comes to mind when you hear the word holy? And I don't have my QR code, so we're just gonna shout it out. What comes to mind when you hear the word holy? Being what? Can we do mics? Because that would be great. This is recorded, so welcome to the interwebs, everybody. Feel no need to name yourselves, especially if you're part of the resistance. Okay, what are some words that come to mind when you think about holiness? Let's go.
Being really young, singing my heart out in church.
Being really young, singing my heart out in church. Let's pass it.
Purity.
Purity, okay.
Say Bible.
Bible.
Just gonna say morality.
Morality.
Spirit.
Spirit. Love over here. Over here. I'm gonna do two more, so if you're ready, go ahead and stand up.
I remember my dad always saying like holiness means being set apart.
Holiness means being set apart. Back here. Children. Wow. Spectrum there, huh? Piety. Piety, love, spirit, children, rules, Bible, perfection. So very different ideas here. When it comes to what we think about when we think about holiness. And I think it matters, right? Because everybody knows this passage. Everybody familiar with this passage? Who has never seen this passage before? Never seen it. So there are a couple of passages. This is from 1 Peter 1:16, where he is quoting Leviticus 19, where God says to the people of Israel, you shall be holy because I, the Lord, am holy, or as I, the Lord, am holy. In Matthew 5:48, it gets played with a little bit, which I love that Jesus does that. Plays with it a little bit and says, you shall be perfect or perfected the way the Father in heaven is perfect or perfected. And the reason that I asked that question is because there are lots of different interpretations in the room of holiness. And I would like to, with all my queer audacity and black nerve, offer an answer to the question of what does it mean to be holy like God? In order to answer the question of what it means to be holy like God, you have to answer how God is holy. What makes God holy? Anybody ever thought about that? What makes God holy? What stories come to mind when you think about God's holiness? His faithfulness. What stories in Scripture? The burning bush. Who said that? Say it with your whole chest. The burning bush. That's right. That's where I learned about holiness, that God was this holy, burning fire that consumed and was hot with flame and red hot rage and jealousy against anybody who would stand in the way of this holiness, right? And then I started to think about what holiness looks like in Jesus and also in me. And this session, I just want to share it with you, okay? So I'm glad somebody said Burning Bush, because when I was young, my favorite movie was this. We're going to watch it.
Here I am.
Take the sandals from your feet. For the place on which you stand is holy ground.
Who are you?
I am that I am.
I don't understand.
I am the God of your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
You were born of my mother, Yocheved. You are our brother.
What do you want with me?
I have seen the oppression of my people in Egypt, and have heard their cry.
Stop it! Leave that man alone!
So I have come down to deliver them out of slavery, and bring them to a good land. A land flowing with milk and honey. And so unto Pharaoh I shall send you. Me?
That right there, I don't even know how old I was, but it still gives me goosebumps. And, in the last session, I did a podcast with Mason yesterday, and I would consider myself probably post-Christian because I'm waiting for the church to catch up with Jesus. I feel like Jesus kind of led me out of these gates that have been erected in his name. And so I'm considering myself post-Christian, but that movie, man, gets me in the fields. Now, it's not really that accurate. Like when you go back and read the actual story and you go back and watch Prince of Egypt, it's disappointing. It's very disappointing. They took some liberties there. But I want to point out some things about this to use it as a metaphor for what was said in the room. Ultimately, most of us, when we think about God being holy, we picture a different type of flame than that. And I think what I loved about this movie when I watched it was that flame was so kind. And it's funny because Moses, did anybody notice that Moses didn't change? I mean, Moses had been in the cave for a little minute before he had to take his shoes off. Does anybody remember why he took his shoes off? The ground was holy, but why? Y'all got to talk real loud for that. I got told y'all have to talk loud. Because he was in the presence of God. How did he know he was in the presence of God? He didn't take his shoes off till he said, "Here I am." The rocks are moving. God says, "Moses, Moses." No response. "Moses, Moses, here I am." Okay, take your shoes off. Now we're on holy ground. Did y'all notice that? He didn't take them off until later. What happens? I am the God of your ancestors. So a part of the holy ground is naming yourself, keeping memory. So part of the way that God proves himself to Moses in the film is by, I remember every bit of your story. All of those flashbacks were coming. And he's like, "Oh, shoot. Hold on. Take off my shoes. I'm actually going to take them off because I can't get it back on." So hold on. He said, "Oh, shoot. You know me. This is my name." And God says, "Well, I have surely seen the affliction of my people," but all you hear in the soundtrack are Moses' memories, right? So God is talking about a sort of a withness with Moses that Moses has not been privy to. And it is the actualization of that withness that consists in him naming himself that turns it into holy ground. He says, when you name yourself, without removing the memory, without dissociating from the pain that got you to this place of naming yourself, when you're able to do that, it's holy ground. You're encountering God in the place of utmost authenticity. And that authenticity includes every last memory, every word, every phrase, every battle you had to fight to get to this place to name yourself. The other thing is really interesting is Moses sees a fire, but has no human agent to kindle it. He hears a voice, but no human lips from which it comes. He sees no living being, and yet one is in the bush. This moment is peculiar, disruptive, and unexplainable. And that's exactly why it's holy. It's so queer. What is going on with this bush? It ain't burning up, but fire is supposed to burn, and boys are supposed to look like this, and girls are supposed to act like that, and families are supposed to function like this. That's how it's supposed to be, but something alternative to that is happening right in front of my eyes. It's a burning bush. So what if I told you you were a burning bush? What about a flaming bush? Zinger. Well, we can talk about that later. If you missed the erotic one, that was yesterday too. It was really good. Also, what I want to point out is that begins this process with Moses. Y'all remember, like after Moses leaves the burning bush scene, he goes, I love the movie too, right? Because it's not in the text, but in the film, they must have had some like significant others in the process of the writing, because when he goes, he's like, yo, I got to go tell Zipporah what God told me I got to do. I can't just go out here and be Moses. I got to go talk to my spouse. So he goes back, remember, and he hugs Zipporah and he whips her all around. Oh my God, I could cry talking about it. He gets this calling. Do y'all remember the first time you came out and somebody was excited for you? And what that felt like? And you see this image of Moses, and you can see it. They don't show it. They don't tell us what Moses is saying. But I have started to fill in the blanks. And he's probably telling, somebody saw me, saw everything. And the bush wasn't burning up. It was a flaming bush. And then it lifted me up, and it called my name, and it knew my story, and it sent me, and it said it saw the same stuff that I saw. I've seen the oppression of my people. And so I am sending you. I have seen the things that hurt you, that pain you, that piss you off, that make you want to do stuff that could get you put in jail. I see it too. And so I am sending you. You. Queerness is holiness, because when God appears to Moses and they start this relationship, they end up having this other encounter where Moses says, God, they're not feeling me. I tried. I told them God sent me. They're not feeling me. I don't come with no pizzazz. I don't have no tricks. I don't have enough followers. People don't retweet me that much. And so God begins to kind of coax Moses in this moment, and he says, tell them I am sent you. He's like, well, tell me what to tell them. Like, tell me, help me, hype me up, do something. How will they know? They're not listening to me. God says, go and tell them that I am sent you. God's name is Am. What? And actually, in the Hebrew, that word means being, to be. God's name is raw, authentic being. So if holiness is basically, at the end of the day, being honest about the things that make you, your story, your name, your story, your name, the way that God speaks to you so that you can hear. I mean, we weren't really privy. God's like, Moses, here I am. Who is that? You all know moments where someone has called your name or the Spirit has called your name. Those moments that led you to those places where it was clear that God is for me, not against me. All of that gets mixed into a memory for us, and that becomes the thing by which we use as a staff to part seas for others and to lead people out. I said it in the last session. I'm going to say it in this session. The time for platforms is over. Okay? Y'all ever seen that movie? Or it's not a movie. It was really good. I think it got canceled, which I'm mad because it was a plot twist. But it was Little Fires Everywhere. That's what I'm talking about. Queer people in their raw, authentic being. Little fires everywhere. We're in a moment right now where people are concerned about what is real and what is true. You can't even trust what your own eyes see anymore. Isn't that a gag? You can't even look at the news and know whether or not this is actually what's happening in the world. We've never been here before. I was talking to my homie Billy. We need new frameworks. We need theologies of flourishing. We need queer people to tell their story. So in the last one, in Mason, if y'all don't listen to the people's theology, you should be, because Mason asked really good questions. And one of the questions he asked was like, where are we going with queer theology? And it's really, we've made theology platforming. Look, there's the person. Look, that's the person everybody should listen to. No, queer theology is queer people talking about God. It's queer people doing God talk. It's really that simple. So whether that's guitars or gaming or writing poetry or, I don't know, kickboxing, do you, boo-boo. God does what we do because God is in us. That's what makes the peculiarity that makes you you. The peculiarity, like a bush that is on fire and not burning. The thing that makes you you is what makes you holy. Your queerness is holy because God is queer and God is holy. I mean, I don't know about you, but I never heard of a polycule before I heard about God. Have you? Never heard about biomimicry till Jesus started talking about wheat and trees and figs and dying seeds. In on the future. God has been telling us since Jesus where things are going. And we're going to everyone in their own authenticity. Jesus tells us to model a way of being. I had my students, this is why I'm wearing my shirt because I take them everywhere. I was just with them and we did a study of the story of Martha and Mary and resurrection and all those types of things. And one of the questions that came out was, well, if Lazarus is raised from the dead, then why don't we worship Lazarus? Well, I said, I'll get back to you. I'll get back to you on that, right? These are questions that people are asking. And the frameworks that used to work, guys, they won't work. It's kind of what Dr. Naomi was saying. We are, I don't know, I did a booger check. If it falls, just pay no attention. I tried. I did it. Where's my friend? You got me. But we're in a time right now where it's really important for you all to recover a sense of identifying truth from within, because we can't trust what our eyes see anymore. And queer people, look at me. Queer. Hey, everybody at home. Queer people are people who have had to carve existence out, carve out space. There have been people who have told you that's not your real name. I didn't make you this way. You're a disappointment. You don't belong. We all have those stories and the ability or the nerve to be anyway. Queer people have practiced this muscle. I source truth from within. Y'all heard Kendrick's new album? Hey now, I'm all about my yin. Big face Buddha, get my peace from within. So my goal in the work that I'm doing is to try to resurrect our conceptions of holiness, because the world needs more holiness. It needs more moral beauty. It needs people who have been able to navigate a society that was not created for them, that has denied their existence. It needs people who have learned how to exist and experience joy in the midst of conditions that are trying to undermine their humanity and dehumanize them. It needs people who have found a path to flourishing when nobody was looking and everybody was throwing stones. Here. Oh, mics. Let me do my last point so we can talk, because that's really where it's at. Last points, and then I'll go, Beth. One of my partners said to me today, stop seeking validation from people committed to misunderstanding you, mischaracterizing you, and underestimating you. Woo, buddy, ain't that a preach? I get to live with that. Okay? And the last thing is that God's name is being. Authentic being is what makes you like God. And shamelessness is what makes it holy. Yeah? So that's my talk, shoot. If you want to be holy like God, you have to be authentically you. That's a process of discovery and recovery, and it's very costly. But the God who asked us to mimic them in holiness is also in the business of bringing life from death. Y'all want to say it with me, and then we'll do a Q&A? All right, let's do it with our big chest voice. Ready? If you want to be holy like God, you have to be authentically you. That's a process of discovery and recovery, and it's very costly. But the God who asked us to mimic them is in holiness, is also in the business of bringing life from death. That was so clear. Thank y'all. All right, come on, Beth. What's your question? You got a mic?
Yeah, so one of the most powerful pieces of scripture for me in understanding they, them as God is everything was made into the being and was made through the word, which tells me that your words are so important, and it is the way that the rest of us are going to find freedom. We need to hear more stories, and even when it's hard, of course, to be safe and take care of you and someone else to step up. But to me, that piece of scripture is so transformative and tells me that your words matter and we need more of them.
Thank you, my friend. Beth taught my kids about money, taught my fellows about money in our fellows program. Right here, Flaming Bush.
How do I raise my kid like that?
Baby? Well, I think one of the words that came out earlier, like when we were talking about what do we mean by holiness, was perfection. And I just think that has been a colonial projection, the way we think about perfection. Because when God is in the actual language, God is basically saying, walk in all the light you have. So that means that sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. That's why I hate cancel culture. Because sometimes people just don't know what they don't know. And so if you cancel somebody for saying something when they didn't know they shouldn't, you remove the opportunity for them to grow. So the way it shows up in parenting is just like, damn, baby girl, I'm sorry. Mommy, plus my daughter will just come up and tell me, Mommy, you're dysregulated. Let's breathe. Let's breathe in for 4. I mean, really, our daughter leads breathing exercises. I married a psychotherapist who is obsessed with attachment and somatics. So there you go. So yeah, you see who's living in my house, right? Winning in life. Yeah.
Hello. I really liked how you just named shamelessness in holiness and how God is holy because God is shameless. And one of my favorite things my priest likes to talk about is how the original sin in the story of Adam and Eve wasn't necessarily eating the fruit, but the shame of immediately realizing they're naked and needing to cover up.
Woo, buddy.
And I really love that. So I'm wondering if you could speak to releasing ourselves
Can
from
I
shame.
speak to it?
Yeah.
Man, I'm obsessed with Genesis 3. I have I don't know. Some people in here know me and have been following me for a little while. I can't get out of Genesis 3. We got to go back. They never answer the question. Who told you you were naked? They never answer. And the church told us that this is a scripture about sin. Sin don't show up till Genesis 4. And they told us this was an explanation for the sin that lives inside of us. What? Sin's not even here yet as a concept. That's not what that passage is about. Okay, so what's happening? Ooh, y'all, time check, baby, time check me. Okay, listen. The lie, I put it this way. The lie or the engine of empire is an invulnerable God. And binary-induced shame is its weapon of mass destruction. Yes, the engine of empire is an invulnerable God. And binary-induced shame is its weapon of mass destruction. And I will tease it out. Yeah, yeah. When you think that God is unlimited and invulnerable and you think you have to become that way, you get capitalism. We are not machines. Machines are designed to be all-knowing and all-powerful. But God is asking a lot of questions. We projected that onto the text because it makes people who know how to tap into your anxiety really rich. If I can convince you that God is a carrot on a stick rather than a kingdom at hand, I got you for life. And that's what makes us outsource our intuition. That's why God says, who told you that? Is that your truth? Did somebody tell you there was something shameful about being vulnerable? Where did you hear that? Who told you that? Why are you hiding? That penis has always been there. So what happened? It says they saw that the fruit was good to the taste and desirable to make one wise. That's another way of saying desirable to make one invulnerable. Why do we have to ask questions if you have all knowledge? There's a vulnerability to asking questions because you have to admit you don't know something, right? So they see this tree and they eat from it. They're like, oh, that there is not what you got. Must mean it's bad. That's where binary induced shame comes from. You attach value to difference and you make it mean something about you. And you see the fruit of that show up. Now we're at sin. So now people make choices based on differences. So God sees Abel's whatever, and Cain is over there, and it says Cain sees God receive Abel's whatever, and his face falls, and he's filled with jealousy. So then God goes to Cain and is like, why is your face falling? And I love this. He says, if you intend good, bear it aloft. Be you, boo-boo. Why is it Abel's fault that you came and half-assed it? Why is it Abel's fault that you don't feel free to be authentic? So Cain has a choice to make. And what Cain does is he eradicates the difference. And now we have Genesis 11. Come, let's build a tower with one language, one way of naming, one way of knowing. Now we've got caste. We've got hierarchy. Come, let's build a tower because God's up there. Well, that ain't what Jesus said. And then what's so funny is like, right, it says God comes down just to fuck with the hierarchy. God comes down and is like, no, none of this. Because how crazy is it? I'm sorry for using that phrase. I'm working on it. I don't know what I'm learning, what I didn't know. How wild is it, right? That you would think that you could contain the knowledge of God in one language. What? What? So you get to Acts, which is the reverse of Genesis 11, right? And in Acts, it's like all these different languages saying the same thing. You see how different that is? We want people to say it this way, do it this way. Say it however you say it, because at the end of the day, it's the same. You see, the spirit moves in the unity that comes out of diversity. Empire moves in the uniformity that comes out of othering. Right? Does that make sense? Helpful? Where's the helpful? Okay. Yep. Yeah. Okay.
You
I'm
said
so sorry.
something you just said made me think about one of the transitions that I had to make for myself is not apologizing for my neurodiversity. Right? Like, it's okay that my mind operates in color and in circles, and that I'm putting the pieces together. And so when I speak, it's going to be like, "Wah, woo."
Yes.
And eventually your brain's going to catch up to mine, because mine's actually working faster and better
Yes.
and more efficient.
That part.
So
You better
right?
say it with your chest. Huh.
But I had to learn that for myself.
Yes.
And it's a more recent, last 10 years sort of, and that is a piece of also like the way that I'm not a biblical scholar. I'm just learning to make sense of the things. But one of the things that's absent from the Bible are the number of women who show up, and wife of, and the woman in the this, that, and the other thing. And I was like, who the fuck are they?
Mm-hmm.
Who are they? My brain needs to know who they are.
Yes.
And it's just absent, and it's
Yes.
and I'm only I'm still in the first the old Hebrew Bible.
Yes.
It's just mind-boggling. Anyway,
Some great resources for that. I'm gonna tell you some, and then I'm gonna send you to Billy. You're right. They should. You know what? They should take what I'm about to tell you and put it into minute-sized videos, because it's dense and it doesn't need to be. People need help. Like, so womanist, midrash. So I would say those, the midrashic tradition in general. My favorite book is The Red Tent by Anita Diamond. Oh my God. So I would say those, just keep, and like, why don't you say? Me getting cut off. Y'all remember when, do y'all remember when Fannie Lou Hamer, like, this isn't that, but y'all remember what happened to her when she did her speech? Anyway, go ahead, Bridget. Is that helpful? Or yeah, okay. Yeah.
All right, we actually have our next question lined up.
Oh.
Well, it's actually a comment. Thank you so much. So,
Ooh, I love that. Can I shout you out for picking the Black woman in the room that I did not see? Thank you. I feel like Bridget is down with that. Go ahead.
So I'm looking at the comment that you have, and what's resonating with me is the idea of authenticity and us being authentically us, right? And understanding it as a process, you said, of discovery and recovery, and it's costly.
Yes.
And I think we need to pause there and think of the cost, right? There's some things sometimes that we have to give up, some people we have to give up, some ideologies we have to give up, and reframe for ourselves in order for us to be authentically who God created us to be. And so I appreciate that you put that there, because sometimes we don't think of the cost. And for some people, that cost is hard. It's extremely hard. And it's a reason why they probably avoid it or have difficulty with it, right? So,
yes.
That's all.
I think about that when I think about Christianity, and how someone asked me about Jesus in the session and how I'm thinking about Jesus. It's just that there is this sort of, well, to the Lazarus point, right? Like, why don't we worship Lazarus? In that story, he tells Martha, resurrection is a way of being. I am the resurrection. She's like, yeah, Lord, I know. And he's like, Martha, it's a way to be. And when I look at Jesus now, his death and his violent experience of death makes a lot of sense to me now that I'm fully out. Because if you pay attention to Jesus, he wasn't really like, he was just being authentically himself. Now, he had some capabilities, right? But even that, right? Because I hit him back with one because I couldn't come up with one, so I hit him with another question. I said, well, if we only worship Jesus because he could do miracles, then why would he tell us we would do greater works? I mean, that don't make no sense. So there's something that we're missing in terms of what colonialism has caused us to project onto the text, that I do think that queer people have the ability to see in Jesus and embody. And in that way, you are disciples. You are teaching people like to follow Jesus, because Jesus is a way of being. Jesus's life was a model of a way of being. And again, what he's demonstrating about God is that God is not invulnerable or unlimited. Jesus took naps, I mean, had to eat, I mean, felt feelings, and go back and read John 11, like, and read how embodied Mary and Jesus are. They are just present to the grief. Martha's like, I know theology. It's a bypassing is what you're talking about, right? Like Martha's kind of bypassing, you know, Lord, I know if you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died. And I know that in the last day, da-da-da-da-da-da. Jesus is like, Martha, 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 Martha. I'm the resurrection. We don't even think about the fact that Jesus says Lazarus will not die. Lazarus died. We never actually allow for there to be curiosity, even in our reading of Jesus, that Jesus is like, oh, missed it. Let's go get him then, 2 days, right? We don't allow for that. And what it does is it strangles the Bible of the life it's trying to give us. And so when you read these texts, the cost is people do not like light. It can be very uncomfortable because God is a mirror. Jesus was a mirror, right, to people. Like in that, even in the John passage, we were tripping off this at the house the other day, where they're talking about blindness and the guy born blind, and everybody is just saying like, Jesus is teaching a theology of common sense. And I'm sorry, I turned my back on y'all. That's why I wanted people to move. He's pressing the theology of common sense because they go, well, who sinned, this boy or his parents? Jesus is like, no, right? And then they go, Jesus spits in the dirt, so he's showing you all kinds of stuff. I think even in this passage, he's teaching us science. He's teaching us the power of the elements, that everything is one, that everything is connected. That I'll spit in this dirt and open your eyes, right? Just to show you that it's all connected. He opens the guy's eyes. He says, okay, now do the thing and go tell the priest, right? He goes to tell the priest. The priest is like, who's lying? And the guy's like, I used to couldn't see and now I can. Go get his parents. He used to couldn't see and now he can. Something got to be wrong with Jesus. Tell him for yourself. I used to couldn't see and now I can. You got to be lying. Listen, I don't know what to tell y'all. At some point it's just a mirror. Who's really blind in the story? Right? That's the purpose of Jesus. That's the way of Jesus. Your authentic being is a mirror to people of the ways that they are hiding. And sometimes, like Cain, we would rather eradicate the reminders of our difference than to be curious, right? And that's I think what we have to I think that's the hard part about all of it. And I think that was a cost for Jesus, was that people were free. And if God is free, then people are free, which means Jesus is not responsible for their decisions. They are. And we have even made a God who's responsible for our decisions. Hello. This is the will of God. These bombs. What? God is a mirror. Oh, this is the will of God. Us kicking our daughter or son out of the house. What? No. God is a mirror. Because God, if nothing else, Jesus said God is a good parent. I mean, if nothing else, back to parenting. I just try to be what I think God is like to me. And flaws are not a condition of belonging. They just are sometimes. That's kind of how I think about it. That was a long answer. Any other questions?
Hey, Tamice, we actually have a question from our online friend, Aaron. Aaron asks, what ways of being do you choose to embody Christ-like qualities in your post-Christianity?
Radical, ethical spirituality that is tethered to my ethnographic tradition. So what I learned was that the Hush Harbor was the ground of Black spirituality because of my experience. I write about that in the first book, right? Me and Billy working on the second. But what I found was that the Hush Harbor was this clearing that enslaved Black people. Dr. Naomi was talking about a little bit last night when baby Suggs, okay? So that clearing was a Hush Harbor. And the Hush Harbor was this carved out clandestine space that enslaved people followed a feeling, okay? There weren't any road signs, no hashtags, no GPSs. They followed a feeling. and a rhythm to these clearings in the middle of the woods. And it would have to be secret, obviously, because they would be tortured or maimed or raped or whipped or whatever if the master found out about it. And they weren't allowed to have their own expression of church. They had to worship what the master said was God. So they created these secret fugitive spaces where they could be their full authentic selves and remember everything from Africa. Because at that time, at that point, you know, Western African ways of thinking about land and place were being demonized. You weren't allowed to beat drums, so they would beat the chest. They would stomp the ground because there was some rhythm they could remember from home that they brought with them on those slave ships through that Middle Passage to these lands that had been wiped of the people who originally stewarded them, and carved out a space of sanity and expression and authenticity where they could name themselves and name God. So I realized, like, the Black church actually comes out of that. And the Black church is typically where people go when they talk about the Black historic presence in America. But for a queer person who was, like I say in the book, too Black for white Jesus, too gay for Black church, I needed a clearing. So I found that the Hush Harbor was this ancient technology that my ancestors created for me, which was to carve out a wineskin for the way that I wanted to name myself and God and worship without having to show up in fractions. And so that is something that's really helpful. So that's the radical, it's the truth-telling piece, it's the root. The ethical piece is that I believe we're one. I believe we're of the same substance. So it determines how I show up in interactions. Like when Jesus tells me to love my enemy now, it's like, oh, it's because my enemy is me. I get it, same substance. Kendrick said it in the album, right? What do you say? Every individual is only a picture of you, right? So that's my ethics. And then my spirituality is like a sacred smallness. I need to be able to like trust my gut, like science, and look at a tree and say, oh shit, that's incredible. So I call it like a sacred smallness, right? Like the good kind of small. That's what spirituality is for me. And then tethered to the tradition, which is Christianity, which is why Jesus is an incredible guide for me. I still learn from the scriptures and from the tradition of Christianity. I'm under a different umbrella, I think, but I'm keeping the best stuff. Yeah.
So I'm going to go back a little bit.
Yeah.
And I love what you said. I don't know your name, but what pronouns do you use? She, her. I love what she said because my brain also works quickly and does puzzle work. So when I first think of holiness, I've been working on the thoughts of holiness. So I love this conversation. Dang, it came down. Go back. Yeah. So I was thinking about holiness and how the concept of holiness is not, so we've been taught that, you know, like God can't be with, right? There's this separation.
Yes.
But we understand through scripture that we are never separated from God.
Mm-hmm.
So holiness is not God separating us, like we're separated from the earth. Actually, we are from one another, you know, not of this world and all of that bumper sticker theology, but more of actually it is a bringing in. And then is the bringing to, right? Presence within. And so I think about that often with holiness, so that we can never be separated from, we are always brought within. Mm-hmm. And we are made from within. And it was saying like authentically you. Yes. To be authentically you is holiness, because authentically you is the image of God, and the image of God is authentically you.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh my gosh, there's the words. And then you were talking about vulnerability and invulnerability. And I love it. And you were talking about Babel and how you're like, God's like, no. You think one language, you think one way of being is me, is presence, is holiness? No. I'm queer because I'm going to scatter it out because I need multiples. Like I am a multitude and so are you.
Yes.
And so all of that was like coming together in my brain. I was like,
yes.
Also, just keep talking always.
I appreciate
but
that.
It was fire. But so thank you for that. So my question to you is this is the part that was not thoroughly processed yet. what does it look like to hold multitudes well? How do you hold your multitudes well?
It's a great question. Can I be like Jesus and also cop out? I feel like that's the question we end on. I think that's what we should ask ourselves. Right? So I'm going to take that question, I'm going to ask us. And then I don't know how we create a community around that conversation, but I would love to know and hear from you. How are we holding our multitude well? Forgiving ourselves. What else? Oh, let's do it that way. Yes, sir. Oh, yeah. Here, yeah. And can someone help sis? Like with the mic?
Or just come up.
Or just follow the
Yes.
Yes.
I'd say it's also like fearlessness, lack of shame, but also humility.
Fearlessness, lack of shame, humility. Let's go. How are we holding our multitude well?
Telling all of our truths, including the ones that don't quite fit together yet.
Telling all of our truths, including the ones that don't quite fit together yet.
We need to be delighted by them. Each one is a surprising opportunity to be transformed more into who we are.
Say it again, Billy.
We need to be delighted by them.
We need to be delighted by them.
Something I've been saying over and over this weekend is you have to be okay with being wrong or changing your mind.
Yes.
Because maybe it is a phase.
Yes.
And that is okay.
And that is
phase was
okay.
worthwhile even if it was a phase.
Hey, I need you to come say that again. Say that, stand up and say that again. And say your name.
Hi, I go by D. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. One thing I said this weekend a bunch is that like you have to be okay with being wrong. It's okay to change your mind. And it's okay if it is a phase. I know we've all heard it from people that like, oh, maybe this is just a phase, you'll get over it. It could just be a phase.
It could just be.
And if it's a phase, it was still worthwhile. If you were, I'm going to put in air quotes, wrong, still worthwhile. That's
right.
what brought you here.
Guess what? Guess what is not a phase? Authenticity. Authenticity is going from glory to glory because it's about telling truth.
Hello. My name's Lorraine, pronouns she, her. I agree with what Dee said. Like, I think I was going to say, like, freeing ourselves from the idea that everything has to be for eternity. Like, one minute you might say, we don't want children. The next minute you might be pregnant with your first child.
Hey, you're not an Ellison, are you?
What? Like, yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. But not about us. This moment's not about us.
No, it is about us. It absolutely is about us. Little fires everywhere.
But also, yeah, just realizing like you don't have to commit and like, you know, stake your claim on everything and just like stand like I'm gonna do this forever. You might sometimes be, it's time to yield, it's time to surrender. Like maybe God is calling you in a different way, and just being okay with that and being okay with like the people that you may have told, hey, this is me, this is what I'm doing, and now I'm pivoting, and that's all right.
That's
so.
right. Look at that person right there holding my baby. Hey.
It kind of matches. The word that came to mind was curiosity.
Curiosity.
Okay. Stay in, nurture, and create relationships with people who bring out that like authentic self in you.
Yes.
Along with what Dee was saying about accepting, like, you might be wrong. For me, I'm thinking of be able to bring up the aspects of yourself that you don't like and that may be messy and ugly and where you might be wrong, being able to bring that up with other people and with yourself and not pushing it down, very much with the the Billy discussed theology thing. That's part of it too.
Mhm.
And being able to let in light from yourself and from other people.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Stop waiting for permission.
Stand up and say that.
And that is
Stand
really,
up and say that.
pardon?
Stand up
Oh.
and say it loud.
Tamice, he, him. Stop waiting for permission.
Stop waiting for permission. Eshé.
Remove and call out judgment.
Mm. I wanna push on that. Because here's why I want to push. Because what we're doing is hush harboring. And what that means is you source the collective wisdom because there's been a carved out space, okay, for all of us to be free and more authentic. So that's why I'm going to push. Because in the removal of judgment, how do we hold space for the fact that sometimes people don't know? So they say really shitty stuff. And they think it's really true. So say it a different way.
Remove my judgment of a person such that I'd only see them through a certain lens. Yeah.
Right.
Expand.
I'm working this out with you because queer people are going to save the world. And what we need to do is come up with ethics, right? Because morality has been taken from us, and ethics is a broad, vast expanse, and morality is what frees us up out of that. So what queer people need to do is to begin to free some things, some ethics. So how do we deal with judgment? How much time do we, y'all?
Tamice.
7 minutes.
I've thought.
Okay. Go for it.
Communal workout. I was thinking about what you're saying. I think it's movement from judgment from character, right? When we start judging a character, we're judging the essence of someone's being, of who and which they are. And it is elevating them so you can judge the stupid shit they say or the bad behavior that they do, right? Bring that into accord with authentic love.
Yes.
Right? You're not eliminating their presence or their being. You're elevating them.
Yes, and so that's making me think of Jesus. Then we're gonna go back here. These are gonna be the last two. Because remember when Jesus is like, and he knew what was in them, so he didn't entrust themselves to them. Y'all remember that? We're talking about Jesus. So there was a knowing of like, what you rolling with is not what I'm rolling with, but we can have some coffee. Yeah, go for it.
I was gonna say, going back to the word that I said, curiosity, I think maybe replacing the judgment with that, because if someone I feel is wrong, I'm curious why you said that. And what you just did there was curiosity as to how you two could work together to figure it out. So it's not an ethics of I'm right and you're wrong. It's an ethics of I'm curious how we can live in the world together.
Hey, I married that person, bruh. Yeah, buddy. Go ahead.
And Fred Rogers said that, right?
Oh.
The thing about curiosity and judgment, right?
Fred Rogers.
Anyway,
I feel like he'd be proud of us.
What?
Huh? What did he say?
Oh, I don't know the quote. It's something about like you should replace judgment with curiosity.
What?
While I talk, somebody find the quote and we'll come back to it at the end.
Yeah. You're gonna be our last question.
In response to like how do we hold our multitudes, I think it's challenging the binaries that are in this world.
Yes.
You said something really beautiful about binaries. There was a phrase you said. I don't know. But like challenging the binaries, challenging other people's binaries, and the binaries we're holding for ourselves as well.
Which is, it goes to the complexity because, right, like if we can't carry that shit from toxic Christianity into this, because sometimes it's not either or. Sometimes it's yes and. You know, yes, I really care about a beautiful world, but I am not fucking with these people today. Right? And both of those things can be true. And I think that learning to live with the complexity that exists on the inside of us is an important step, especially because, again, like we said in the beginning, they have asked us to outsource our intuition and abdicate our agency. So the step to our own healing is recovering that. What do I think? Like, you don't need to make an apology for your existence. We're not doing that in 2025, okay? What we need to do, write our stories, tell our stories to safe people, Do our, y'all, art. Finding our way to beautiful things and finding ways to document and share it. Find your way, your queer way, to beautiful things, to your queer self. Share that, because what you're doing is mixtaping. You're curating inspiration. And as we build a collective network of people that are queer, who are holy, who are little fires everywhere, we're building a network of freedom, which is very much a very high, like harsh harbor reality. So it's been real dope to be with y'all.